Minneapolis City.
To post goals!
The People's Pitch Podcast, brought to you by Summit Brewing Company.
Do not adjust your dials because your computer should not have dials. This is the People's Pitch Podcast coming at you from deep within the bowels of Minneapolis City's volcano base with hot takes on the latest in city soccer. I am Nate, and I'm joined as always by my co-host John. John, what the heck have you been doing for 2 weeks, man?
Nate, a whole lot of family time. Giving back what I borrowed during the summer as far as the soccer equity bank account is considered. But I could not be happier than hopping back on the channel with you to talk some soccer. Lots of soccer to talk about.
Yeah, man, there's some fresh news.
Yeah, so what's on tap for today? Let's just get right into it.
The PLA crowned a champion. So we've got a recap of that. We want to talk about that in case anyone's interested. We want to recap. There's the U.S. Amateur Championships that just happened in Milwaukee this last weekend. So we're going to recap that because it's got a little bit of local flavor, a little bit of PLA flavor to it. And then the big news is the U.S. Open Cup qualifying that we're gonna enter in. So we want to definitely cover that, get all the deets from you and from the team, and then that should do it. We'll have everyone hungry for more by the time we're done today. Shouldn't be a very long show. Yes,
and I'd like to just drop a little bit of knowledge here that now that we're on the airwaves again. I'd like to give a big up to Stegman Soccer Club, our parent base of the soccer pyramid here in Minneapolis. Our Division I men's team won not only the cup in the middle of the season, but pulled off the double and won the state league championship for Division I men's amateur soccer. So big up to the Stegmans guys. If you follow us on Twitter or Facebook, you see that there's sprinkled in there is in the cake batter that is Stegmans was a lot of guys that play on the PLA team. So big
I saw that. I saw Sam Well was suiting up with you guys.
Sam Well, we got Hoof, we got AO, Camarada, Big Game James in goal.
That's pretty sweet.
Timmy Willis. We got who else? We got quite a few guys.
Yeah, man.
Many people I probably didn't name. Ike Forsgren's on the team.
Oh yeah, I saw him on
the old Swiss Army,
photo.
The old Swiss Army knife, Ike Forsgren.
Yeah. So that's pretty sweet.
Yeah. So big ups to those guys, and we'll get into a little bit about what that kind of means for us when we talk about Open Cup qualifying. But yeah, let's talk PLA tournament recap. So we didn't make the playoffs, as we all know, right?
Yes.
But
sadness.
The single pink tear that we all shed when we didn't make the playoffs and Crapids went in our place. But Nate, things got really weird before the tournament even started. On the eve, not literally the evening of or beforehand of the tournament, it looked like things were kind of set as we were going into the playoffs. They were set in the West with the Bavarians taking the number 1 slot in our division, and then Cedar Rapids taking the second slot as 2 from each division go. But in the East, it got a little interesting, and guess what? It wasn't the case that we thought it was.
I remember doing the recaps and saying pretty much Toledo's in, Adria's in second place because there's just like no way they're going to get over this. What, a 5-goal differential they were behind? Yeah,
they needed to win by 5-0. So Aurora, they took on Aurora, a little crosstown rivalry, and then needing to win by 5 goals. There was a big rain delay with those big storms we got about 2 weeks ago that kind of hit Illinois a couple of days after it hit here. And the game was delayed. And I believe the game, there was 60 minutes left, 60 left to go in the game, and it was 2-0 Adria. When it resumed, the scoreline of what seemed to be kind of a useless game, knowing that they were already going to be in the playoffs, it got a little bit weirder.
What?
And the scoreline ended up at
how long was the delay?
It actually was delayed, I believe, a day or two.
What?
Yeah, because of logistics and being able to reschedule it. So luckily it wasn't like Toledo traveled to, to Aurora, right? So final scoreline 6-0. So 4 more goals went in after the multiple day delay, and it took the first seed in the East away from who we thought had it locked in Toledo. So do you smell a rat, Nate? Is the Chicago contingent of the Croatian Mafia pulling the strings in the PLA here?
I don't know, man. I guess you gotta assume so. What? I've never heard of anything like that happening in soccer before. That a rain delay lasts a matter of days, and I understand there's scheduling and stuff, but like that just seems like why not just? I would understand the game was important and had playoff implications and clearly made an impact on the playoffs, but I don't know. There had to be a better way to do it than a 2-day rain delay.
Right, and usually like around the 60-minute mark, at least when it comes to like men's amateur soccer, it's kind of the game's kind of over at that point, and they kind of take that score line at the 60-minute mark. It might have actually ended just before then, which is even weirder that it would end like right before they
like
call.
You can't hang on for like 5 more minutes in the rain.
Right, it must have been that serious, but I don't know what happened. But what did happen was it took away a title from Toledo, which I think was kind of dirty pool.
Well, and that had implications because that set the stage for kind of a less than optimal, a suboptimal playoff tree.
Yes.
You got to feel like the fans kind of got boned because we ended up with the top 2 teams in it seemed like our mind, but most other people's probably. Toledo had to play the Bavarians in the first round. Mm-hmm. And that was your pick for the final, which should have been the final. And then we had Crapids versus Adria, who, playing some potentially dirty, sneaky pool, sneaking their way into this playoff situation here. Did you tune into these games? Did you watch this stuff?
Yes, I did, and I was kind of ticked because I didn't want to see the Adria Crapids hump fest on the other side of the semifinals. Like I didn't really care about that game. I really cared about. I cared in the sense of what we thought it was going to be going in, where we had to see Toledo. We got a chance to see Toledo maybe just wipe the floor with Rapids, which would have been awesome. But we didn't get that. But we got the first semifinal, which was a great game. It saw the Bavarians go 1-0 up to the good on a screamer by Brandon Dietz, who was a guy who tore us apart in Minneapolis.
Yep.
He's a great soccer player. But it was a shot from real distance, very FIFA-esque, where caught the goalie napping and just put one in the upper corner. And then that's really all it took for the Bavarians defense to kind of hit cruise control, knowing that they, if that stuck, they would go on to the final. So they got that ever important first goal. Kind of, there was still time to play, and Toledo did everything they could to kind of hang in there. But we saw quite a few saves by Bavarians goalie Jim Jones, and a ball off the post. Very similar to what we saw when we played against them in Milwaukee.
Oh, yeah.
Just a screamer when everyone's looking one way and the ball goes the other and hits the far post. But ended up being the 1-0 final, pushing the Bavarians into the championship match.
Should we even talk about the other team that or the other game that nobody really wanted to watch? I'm going to say no. Like kind of a waste of time. This other game, right? I mean, Adria just kind of fresh off of a 6-0 win on paper, but still a drubbing of Aurora. I mean, they just toyed with those idiots from Iowa, and even Gordy Jerson was just a boner. Every inch of the boner that he'd been all season, he was in this game. Yeah,
I mean, let's be honest. I really didn't have anything to do that day, so it was the only thing on in my house. There's no other soccer on, so it was what it was. But to go back to Jerson, it was like you can just hear the guy through the computer just complaining to his own guys about how he's not getting the ball where he wants it, and screaming at the ref and flopping all over the place, and just being, like you said, being every inch of the boner that he is. But we saw Adria go 2-0 to the good and make it to the final.
Well, I mean, that's pretty sweet. So that sets up the final.
Yep. The scoreline of the final, 4-1. Bavarians beat Adria to take the championship. We clearly know that we had the final the day before in the first semifinal with the Bavarians in Toledo, being hosted in Toledo as well. So it was like the stars aligned for Toledo, and then they got kind of screwed out of the top spot. Like we mentioned, and then the Bavarians were every inch of the best team in the PLA, I think, this season, and it just showed how strong our division champion was and who we had to play against.
Yeah.
Beating a very good Adria team 4-1 in a final, like that's kind of embarrassing, and and I don't know. I mean, that's my take. How do you kind of feel about it?
Yeah, I mean it's a result that we'd all been looking for since the season started. I mean they had the most respect. They earned the most respect in our league, and I think that going into next year, they're definitely the team to beat. It's again going to be us and Cedar Rapids kind of competing for that number 2 spot. But barring some sort of weird disaster, the Bavarians are definitely the Yankees of our division. They're the team to beat. I guess the Yankees is an older reference. They're not that good anymore, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah, well, technically they are the Leicester City of the Western Division.
Yeah, right.
If you follow the Premiership, but hats off to those guys. We joke on Twitter with them, and we call them our frenemies to the east of us, but very much so friends of the organization. I have ties there. Good people, good soccer. So hats off to those guys.
Yeah, so congrats to the Bavarians, man. We look forward to figuring you out next season.
Yep, twice.
And, hopefully beating you twice, so that'd be great. But they were not done yet after winning the PLA Championship. They went on to the U.S. Amateur Championships.
Yeah, so they turned around the next weekend, and they were drawn to be the host of the Final Four for the U.S. Amateur Championships. No need to really go into details other than that they played another 2 games. The semifinals being on last Friday night. I did watch that game, and it was actually really entertaining. They played Legends out of Texas, which is kind of a perennial amateur, strong amateur squad that is in and out of these type of tournaments. They're really good. But what it saw was 2 goals being scored in the last 4 minutes of the match to tie the game and to send it into overtime, for which the Bavarians pull out in penalty kicks 7-6. So it was fairly entertaining, especially in front of a home crowd. They had quite the crowd out, more than they had against us. And what I thought was really funny about that was that they had startup music for when the team came out. They had an announcer that sounded better than it did against us. They had more fans.
Really?
Yeah, they very much so. It looked like they took a page out of our own playbook, and they saw what we did and what we brought from a game day experience to this amateur championship, which I thought was kind of cool to see that it clearly was following our script.
Yeah, I mean, well, I think even just from when we went and visited them, it felt like the start of a high school game, just like, hey, here's the thing, and da-da-da. Our games, I think, definitely were way more fun than any of the other away games that we got to. So glad to see that we're raising the bar for the rest of the league.
Well, I mean,
at least in excitement.
They didn't have, their supporters group like we do, but they had fans. They had the soccer mom army was out in full force. You could hear them through the stream, cheering on their guys. They had the full contingent of
the soccer mom army.
They had the full contingent of the youth players that were there. They had, players of yesteryear that I could see kind of walking back and forth at halftime. So it was cool. It was cool to see. I really wish I could have made it down there for that. I know the coach of Toledo, who we're well connected to, he made the trip down, and a few other members of the PLA organization made the trip. But the buck kind of stopped at the semifinals for the Bavarians as what looked like a really tired team. I watched the final. They kind of limped into the final. You could tell it was like 2 full weekends of games like that against good competition, and it saw them lose in the final to a 10-man due to a fairly interesting red card. I agree with the referee, but in a final, I don't think you go that quick to the other pocket. But they played against Christos FC out of Maryland, which is another great men's amateur side, and they lost 2-0 in overtime. So they went 0-0 the whole game in overtime against 10, or in regulation against 10 men. Go directly into overtime, and 2 quick goals by Christos, and the game was over.
Dang. So it's at a Greek team?
I don't know their lineage as well. I haven't played against them. I just know the name. I would imagine, yes. Christos FC sounds very. It's no Olympiakos, but it sounds very Greek to me.
I think that's awesome.
Yeah, but another ethnic squad. But the match itself looked a lot like our games this season, where you have a lot of the ball, you make 1 or 2 mistakes, and you're down a goal or 2. Mm-hmm. And like I said,
they got out Bavarian.
They did. They looked tired, and the thing is they got beat with long balls over the top. So it was like very much Minneapolis City, right? So they put in a good summer.
Cool, man. Well, that is a lot of postseason soccer for those Germans, man.
Yeah, Nate, they won 6 trophies this year, which is like totally out of this world, right?
What?
Yeah, they won the Wisconsin League Championships. They won the Wisconsin League Tournament Championships, the PLA Western Division, the PLA Championships, the Wisconsin State Cup Championships, and the Region 2 Amateur Championships, which is what put them into the final for this past weekend.
So, a lot of hardware.
A lot of hardware. So it just shows the type of organization that we go up against in our own division, let alone in our league, that, all the naysayers in the beginning of the year were like, what the heck is the PLA? Like, we never heard of this stupid league. And Minneapolis City is this new team, and no one cares about the Minnesota United reserves. And, it was just really unfortunate that people were kind of, naysayers at the beginning. But,
yeah, I felt like a lot of people were late to the game.
Mm-hmm. Very late to the game, and it just stinks that people thought that. But the Bavarians carried that torch for us as we went into they went into these other competitions and really showed everyone what they're made of.
So speaking of more soccer, John, if the Minneapolis City fans are hungry for it sooner than later, we have it for them. Holy crap. I can't even believe it. What's going on with this more soccer?
Well, it's a different kind of soccer. It's straight loser goes home death match. It's the U.S. Open Cup qualifying rounds, and it's the amateur division, which means that it's the knockout version of the teams at the lower level that the cream rises to the crop, rises to the top. Excuse me, and the more professional level teams that are in the tournament, they come in later. So it's kind of like the minnows are fighting for the 1 or 2 berths that we have.
Right on. So we talked about this tournament way back at the beginning when we first started podcasting, just to kind of reference the success from some other teams that we might be coming up against that we might see. Mm-hmm. Is this the same tournament the Bavarians just earned a berth in?
No, they were actually in the United States Amateur Soccer Championships, which is a little bit different. And the reason why it's different, it's kind of a completely different thing. Outside of the English FA Cup, which, if you don't know what that is, you've been seriously living under a rock if you are a soccer fan. But it is, if not the oldest domestic soccer championship in the world outside of the FA Cup. And what that means is every team from state champion men's league teams like our newly crowned Minneapolis or Segment City team that we talked about earlier, from that level all the way through leagues like the PLA, the NPSL, the USL, the PDL, the NASL, where Minnesota United's first team is in, and all the way to the MLS.
So all the way to the top. So we're taking advantage of this new qualifying process that includes a local qualifying aspect. So that's where this death match comes in, right? Because they're not gonna put us up against, a team like Minnesota United or the Silverbacks or something for for like a 2-game series or anything like that.
Or like DC United or
Right, it would
like
just be
LA
embarrassing.
Galaxy. But
We have to play our way up.
We have to play our way up, but it doesn't mean that we're not going to have to travel potentially. So, we might not get a home game. The draw is coming soon. The draw is actually should have come out with the teams that are within the region that we're playing in. But early indicators are that we could travel as far as Denver, maybe St. Louis, somewhere in Ohio. So we kind of don't know yet if we're going to host or if we're going to go anywhere. Anywhere between either coast. So we have a chance to travel, but no, we won't be playing some heavy hitter that where guys get paid to play soccer.
That's good. So, dude, a lot of our guys went back to school. I know Will Kidd went back to Bradley. Sam Wells heading up to Messiah again. And Trey, Abdallah, Steve, all Green Bay, right? So all of our dudes.
Abdallah's at Post. So
yeah, that's right, Post.
Yeah.
So all these dudes back at school.
Goose is at Indiana.
Yeah,
Duncan's at UCLA.
Max is at Louisville. So who from our team is returning?
Like you said, we have no college players, and it's a roster thing for this type of portion of the tournament where there's a potential that players could lose their eligibility. So, we have to look outside of the Minneapolis city headquarters for players to complement the guys that we have on our roster that are eligible. So I guess, basically to start it off, who from city that these fine folks listening are used to hearing?
These are going to be the guys that are overage, that are hanging out around town,
right?
Guys that we've come to know and love as the elder statesmen, the leaders of the team.
Speaking of elder statesmen, I'm glad you mentioned that. We will be bringing back Mr. Matthew Elder, who's going to be captaining the squad for the Open Cup. So he'll be between the sticks. We'll have players such as Aaron Olson, AO, who consummate contender for team of the week. At outside defense, the man, the myth, the legend that is E-Man, Emmanuel Brown, the beast from the East, AJ Albers, Mr. Ben Wexler, another potential almost weekly contender for PLA player team of the week. Big Game James, who was our third string backup, who's now elevated one level to kind of fill that role that Duncan had behind Elder as our number 2. And then Timmy Willis, who was a reserve forward who we had, who got some time coming in midway through the season all the way through the end of the season. So those are the guys that you've heard of before on these airwaves. It's a great base, I think. It's one of those things where we don't have to completely start from scratch. And if you think about what I just said and who those guys are, pretty decent spine from the middle of the field if you're moving a guy like AO in the middle to take over for a guy like Trey, or E-Man filling in for a guy like Abdallah. We have some guys we can lean on. But there's some names in there that you're not hearing for a couple different reasons. Nate Engel, who would have been another guy obvious choice. He's having knee surgery, recovering from the knock that he took throughout the season, and he played through that pain. So he's ineligible for at least the first round of rosters. You can change the roster up to 3 times if you keep winning. And so he has the opportunity to join the squad later on, as well as some of the college players if we do make a run into the summer. But you're also not hearing a name. Andy Laurie is taking some time away from soccer for some off-the-field things that he has his mitts in. Just needed some time away from the game, and there's nothing wrong with that. So we had to look outside of the house to find some guys to mix in.
Yeah, for sure. So you've got kind of you've kind of said this to me before that you're it's like playing FIFA. You're kind of putting together your own team. You're the manager here. Mm-hmm. It's kind of like fantasy soccer. You've got our old faithful kind of guys. Obviously not Trey, the old faithful, but you've got our guys that we've counted on. But then we've got guys that are coming in that you have counted on either as teammates in the past or as guys in the Stegman's organization that have been successful, right?
Right. I think what I'd like to start is maybe talking with who's going to be helping me coach. I think we're going to bring
Who is?
We're going to, Coach Kicker is not able to help us out. Jeremy had to go back to Bethel University. Adam, who's our goalkeeper coach, he is the athletic director and helps coach the men's soccer team at De La Salle High School here in the cities. So those guys are unavailable. So I had to look kind of at who could help me. I was appointed by Chairman Hudeman as the coach for this, not only because I've done this before with other teams outside of the cities before I moved here, as far as putting a tournament team together, but I had to look outside of the box a little bit and think about who I could bring in. So number one on the list is Chairman Hudeman's going to be helping coach solely the goalkeepers, being that he is a goalkeeper by trade. So he'll be working with Matt Elder and James once a week throughout the training period. It's very limited. We have 6 set training sessions, so 3 weeks to put this team together to build something. So he's going to be helping out with that once a week from a technical perspective, and then the other time of the week will be more of a tactical session where the whole team will get involved. I'll be bringing in Nate Engel, who I mentioned, who's injured. He's gonna help me out a little bit on the sidelines.
Okay.
I talked to a member of our Stegman's team, tonight at our game, in Cole Erickson, who was a Division III regional all-region player at McAllister College, who's been a Stegman's old boy since the conception of Stegman's, and has doesn't have a coaching pedigree that normally you think of from someone to help, but quality player, knows the game well, good guy, relatable. He's going to be coming in. And then Dustin Brandon, who is another member of Stegman's, who in the past played for Minnesota Thunder. He was drafted by the Kansas City Wizards before they went into Sporting KC, and he's played in this match at the highest level. So he's the guy I'm going to be looking towards and leaning on to help me build a style of play to win a tournament game when it really is do or die. So that's kind of how the staff is going to shake out. So definitely some guys that could potentially help out outside of Chairman Hudeman, who's always got his hands in everything. That could help out maybe next season with the summer version of Minneapolis City.
That's a deep management staff, man. That's you're going to have a lot of opinions to juggle.
Well, I think I'm bringing in like-minded fellas who share a vision as to what needs to be done to kind of tackle this format, either played in it or who are willing to buy into the system. And it'll be definitely a coach by committee. I think as far as when it comes to coaching a team, and my philosophy is that you can never have too many cooks in the kitchen as long as they know who the head chef is. Right.
Okay.
So, I'm not trying to, beat my chest like I'm the end all be all, but, from a manager perspective, you need to bring in a staff that's willing to, set up the trainings and pick up the cones and do the things, and as well as help plan the style and buy in. So everyone's going to be coming into this with fresh set of eyes with one focus, and that's to build a system to win one game and then get to the next step, and then hone that system with these players that we're going to get into in a second, outside of the guys we know of, and then try to win that second game and move further and further on and just keep building the system and the style of play. And hopefully some of that rubs off on what we're going to do this summer.
Yeah, for sure. So I tried to touch on it quick, but we went to the coaching. Who are you pulling from your Stegman's organization? Because it seems like you've got, that's where a lot of these guys came from, like AO, like Camerata.
Yep.
Who else could step up and contribute?
Yeah, and a guy like Camerata, he has some stuff with his personal life and with his job that he can't actually be on the roster because he'd be missing potentially our second game. And because we can only change our roster 3 times, we had to look at guys who could play multiple matches in a row.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately he's kind of on the reserve list, who will, like Engel, who will come in once we get further. Fortunately, if we do get further. But we are bringing in some Stegman's guys. And most of these guys were in the trial period for Minneapolis City last winter. The first one would be Evan Wright, who formerly was the strength and conditioning coach for Minnesota United and did spend some time playing with them. Awesome defender, really great guy. Basically think of a left-sided version, if you're thinking of AO, a left-sided clone of AO. And they're roommates in real life, and they're partners on the field as far as bookends to a defense. So it's good to have a guy like Evan in there, a quality player. We're also looking at bringing in a guy by the name of Alex Bernhardt, who call him Bernie, who was a standout player at St. Thomas, who played on our Stegman's team this year.
Okay.
We're also looking at bringing in Nick Hutton, who was a standout high school soccer player in Minnesota, but forwent soccer offers to be on the track team at the University of Minnesota, and he plays on our Stegman's team, as well as Ace, who also
Ace is the place.
Ace is the place. Ace is the head men's coach at Minneapolis South, where we played our home games this past year. So,
cool.
These four guys, four guys are stalwarts on our men's first division team and help them win the title. And I think will be great pieces to bring in to complement the guys that we're bringing back from City. The other guy to think about is Landy Matson, who was in the mix during the trial period to play with City. However, his day job kind of got in the way. But he comes to us by way of Clemson University and most recently the Atlanta Silverbacks.
Okay.
So he's another guy that's been in this type of competition before at a higher level, and could be really useful if he can get the time off from his day job to be able to be part of the team. I think he's got that experience and really great guy. Definitely checks any type of ego at the door and just does a job and can play multiple types of positions because he's just a really good soccer player. So that's kind of how we're starting to shape things. So we have a good base, really good base from inside the house.
And there's so that's a lot of guys that are, like you said, it's a pretty solid base, but a lot of question marks. A lot of guys that might not be able to contribute right away, 100%. So we're probably going to have to pull some overage players from around town, right? And I feel like, this is just me, but I feel like with the success of Minneapolis City, the kind of name we made for ourselves in soccer just this year, that we might have the pick of the litter from some guys that are looking to play a little bit more into the fall.
Yep, absolutely. And I don't think you could have hit the nail on the head even harder by saying the pick of the litter, because when we reached out to players, we basically, to cast the net from our guys that we knew of, whether it be the AOs, the Elders, or the Aces or the Evan Wrights that we knew would be quality. We went to those guys first and said, who do you trust to bring in around town that we maybe didn't have a chance to look at for City? And I contacted some guys, had to open up our soccer Google and reach out to some of these players, and there are some serious ballers that are out there that are playing in the First Division Men's League who we can lean on. There's a guy by the name of Casey Carey. He's a winger, plays for Cardinals in the Division I MASL. Charlie Adams, who also plays in Division I MASL, comes to us through Gustavus, where he was a highly decorated player, a central midfielder. And then Kido Pure, who was the 2015 Mr. Soccer in Minnesota, who just recently returned from playing professionally in Indonesia and is a big, strong, fast, lethal striker.
So that's the dude that was Mr. Soccer before Connor.
After Connor, actually.
After Connor. Oh yeah, because Connor's a little older.
Yep.
Oh, look at that. Okay.
Yep. So this guy forewent college and went over to Indonesia and plays professionally. So he was actually one of the guys who came to us through referral and was all in because he's out of contract through the off season and looking to keep sharp. And there's nothing like a tall, strong, fast, lethal forward that I would shy away from adding into the mix.
No, why would you?
Right, exactly. Because soccer is a game of scoring more goals than the other team, so might as well put a goal scorer on your team, right? The next three guys were referrals through our connection at UW Superior and up in Duluth through Nate Engel and Matt Elder. And the first one, Joey Gustafson, is an All-American center back from Superior who is a little bit older, had some opportunities to play soccer at a higher level earlier on in his college career, took some time off, came back and played Division III and just tore it up as a center back. So he's going to be coming down from the Superior area to train with us and play with us, as well as Tom Corcoran and Sean Morgan of St. Scholastica, which is Division III in Duluth. Both of them All-Americans in the Division III ranks, and all three of these guys are in the true sense of it, college players. However, they're out of eligibility, so they are eligible to play with us. Tom Corcoran is a center midfielder, from what I hear, silky smooth guy from across the pond, as well as Sean Morgan, both of them being from England and Ireland. So got a little bit of Euro flavor on the team, which you got to have a little bit of that, right? But
yeah, especially if they're going to be able to cuss out the refs a little bit, they're going to do it extra creatively.
Right. So we have an Indonesian footballer, we have an Irish winger, and an English center midfielder. So if that doesn't spell thunder and lightning, I don't know what does.
So these guys all are living in the city, or they're all kind of, I mean, obviously Keto grew up here. Some of these guys, they all grew up around here? They all fit the philosophy?
They all have ties to Minnesota, whether it be they moved here to play and to go to school, or they started here and went elsewhere. So still true to our philosophy of having homegrown talent, even though Tom and Sean, being at St. Scholastica, aren't technically homegrown. They are from Minnesota and currently live here. So Joey, Tom, and Sean will be coming from the Duluth Superior area. Probably not going to be able to make every single training session, but we're working out with kind of the mandatories about having them in the mix and what they can and can't do. That's a lot of travel for, 6 training sessions in a game, so we have to kind of manage that properly. But we'll set the expectations with those guys, and they're all good at soccer, so we'll work and do our best to make sure that we can give them the benefit of the doubt, as well as them knowing what their expectations are to make the final roster.
So John, I heard a rumor, and by that I mean you sent me a preliminary roster, and there were some familiar names on it, man, and it looks like, if I'm not crazy, are we poaching some players from the reserves to play with us?
I wouldn't necessarily say we're poaching. That kind of has negative connotations. They are not doing what we're doing. And the guys
who reserves are not going to enter into this tournament? No,
they're not. And their playing days within the system are pretty much over as far as competitive matches.
Yeah.
So, I mean, some guys I think are going to be hanging around, the guys that are at least in town that aren't going back home or elsewhere this fall. But they have the opportunity to join us for this. And more soccer is better soccer, right? So
yeah, totally.
So might as well, knock on some of the doors and ring some of the phone numbers that we had from guys that were in the mix with us, who maybe went and played with United Reserves because it's more of a pathway to professional soccer, being tied to a professional organization, whereas we are not. So the sales pitch was real easy for these guys. Hey, man, we're thinking about putting a U.S. Open Cup qualifying team together. Are you interested? And there was no hesitation other than, yes, when does it start and what do I have to do? So, cool. Which is great. So some of these names are going to sound real familiar to those of you who listen to the show. So first off being Brian Chapman, who started out with us in the beginning of the season. Chips didn't fall his way with City, but
yeah, no hard feelings. It was a matter of playing time. It sounded like for him, right?
Yeah, matter of playing time, where he went to the reserves, was able to start games and get that valuable playing time, as he's still trying to be a professional soccer player in the formidable years that he has left to try to do that. So Brian Chapman, one of the guys we're bringing in, some of these guys that we brought in were referrals through him. So it was great to find another trusted soul out there with soccer skills that we could put on the roster, and just happened to be that he played for the reserves. The other 2 guys next would be Abai Habat, who was a winger out of Hamlin University, who started with us in training, and again, kind of that pathway to pro soccer, just chose. I believe, I wasn't the one who had the final say on selections, but I believe he was definitely in the mix and would have been on our team if he had chosen to go with us. The other is Miles Stockman Willis, who's an outside back / winger, who again, another guy who wanted to try to play pro soccer while he has the opportunity. So he's in the mix. And then Martin Brown, who is the older brother of Whitney Brown, who we've talked about.
Yeah, Whitney is a deadly attacker.
Mm-hmm. And some say that Martin is actually a little bit more seasoned and a little bit better of an attacking player. Not an all-out forward, but if you've listened to who we talked about, we already have a Tim Willis. We already have someone that we might be able to bring in Landy Matson, who can play up there. And then we have Keto, who goes by KP, a lethal striker who plays professional soccer. So that all-out attacker, striker, we have a few of those guys already. So bringing in Martin Brown as more of a underneath attacking center midfielder who can partner with a guy like Wexler is a great addition. So that kind of rounds out what we have here. So
that's, not quite the Minneapolis City that we're used to seeing. I think once we get to know these guys leading up to the tournament, I think they'll be just as good, right? It's going to be sort of like the uncanny X-Men coming to the rescue, or coming into the scene when the X-Men were stuck.
I mean,
don't know what I'm talking about at all.
We went to a whole nother level of nerd.
Oh my God, John! It's a whole Cyclops, Jean Grey, Iceman, Beast. They're out of the game. They get captured. So what? Who shows up? Wolverine, right? Nightcrawler, Colossus, dudes you know and love to this day. And I feel like that's exactly what's going to be happening with this Minneapolis City tournament team. I'm really excited to see how you can hone this fighting force to the sharpest point.
So I don't think I'm alone in knowing that you were speaking English there for like 3-4 minutes. I understand the words you were saying, but I don't know what you were saying.
You'll see. We'll get some great Twitter reaction from the uncanny X-Men versus classic X-Men metaphor.
I'm sure we will, but I'm not in that camp of understanding a word you just said. But if I think I know a little bit, I believe you're correct. This is truly a tournament team. There are some of these guys here that may continue to play with Minnesota United reserves next season for the PLA. Maybe want to get in the mix and try out for our team. There's a mixture of guys who are going to be just men's league players for Stegmans. There's a mix of guys that we're going to have back or invite back that were with City. And then there's a small contingent of like really quality players that whether they're done with eligibility for the college ranks or they're men's league players who just didn't have the opportunity to try out. So it'll be a little bit of a all hands on deck. Let's throw on the white homes or the pink aways, maybe even the faux backs.
Yeah.
And let's get after it,
Gotta for cup ties, right?
Right. The cup jerseys. I think that the thing to stress here to the people listening is that this is different than what we did this summer. And the citizens are already notified. I'm gonna go nerd on you right now. The bat signal has been shined throughout the city.
The crow signal
has been donned throughout the skyline of Minneapolis, and we're gonna have a group of supporters who are both willing to travel and willing to support this because it is part of City. So it is different that we have some different players in the mix. We still held true to the fact that we wanted to have Minnesota born or Minnesota residents playing, keeping it local. But we have to really build a style, and we don't have a lot of time to identify that. So we're going to have to take these guys in. We know some of them we don't know, and put the chess pieces on the board that's going to try to get us to the next levels of this tournament. And you know what? The other side of the coin, I'll quote our friend Coach Jeremy, that soccer is weird, and there might be an opportunity for us to advance, and there might be the case where we're one and done. But we're going to try.
Yeah,
that's all we can do.
I think from looking at a lot of the website, the U.S. soccer web or the soccer website that
The U.S. Open Cup website.
the U.S. Open Cup website, the Lamar Hunt website. It seems like these teams that we're going to play are going to run the gamut from I've just got a bunch of bros outside of Indianapolis, and we're gonna get a team together, and we're gonna enter in this tournament, all the way up to teams like the United, or someone that we might that maybe be a step lower, that has to kind of enter into this tournament to play in. So we could, it's kind of, we're rolling the die here, right? We could be paired up against some guys from middle of nowhere, Nebraska, or we could get paired up against a serious team from Kansas City or Wichita.
Everybody has to put an application in, so you have to be selected. So maybe the opportunity for us to play against a random group of friends is a little
gone.
It's a little bit lower.
Yeah.
We would have had to be playing in a Division I men's amateur league.
Okay. So each of these teams are at least somewhat established competitively in their region.
Yeah, like I know one team in particular, the team out of Ann Arbor who was in the PLA in the inaugural year, they've entered a team in. So, and they, I believe, either won the Midwestern division of the MPSL, or they were at least in the final against, I believe it's AC Cleveland, the team out of Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
So those type of teams are in it. You could see someone like pop up, like maybe the Minnesota Twin Stars who played in the APL in the MPSL. You could see that, but we're not going to, like we said before, we're not going to run into a buzzsaw that is, the Seattle Sounders or Portland.
Not yet.
We're not going to run into that yet.
Yep.
So,
That's good.
I think one of the things to mention too is that in the previous years of this tournament, and there's many of them, we talked about earlier on in this podcast about the potential of maybe entering the U.S. Open Cup, and we talked about the U.S. Open Cup that was going on, and the teams that we played against, like Des Moines Menace. They, I believe, got an automatic bid, so we wouldn't see someone like that this round. But so Eric Winalda, whose name rings a bell throughout, soccer fans in the U.S., put together a team of kind of an all-star team from California, I believe 3-4 years ago, that made a real deep run, but started out in this type of format and went all the way through, losing to Seattle in the deep regions of this tournament. So it's not to say that we can't do it. We just might have a little bit tough go, and then we'll see. You're right. We're rolling the dice. We're gonna give the old college try without college players.
That's cool. Well, I mean, the Open Cup draw is next Monday, right? The 15th.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
And we're going to be picking our final roster in response to that draw. So we're going to be seeing you, the listener, again in 2 weeks to talk more Minneapolis City. So the draw being next Monday, roster building the next week, and then we're going to be talking about that. So we're going to talk final roster. We're going to scout the opposing team, and we're going to get fucking pumped, right, for whenever and wherever this first game may be. As long as the soccer gods are going to giveth, John, we will taketh, and we will turn out some fresh takes.
Yes, we will.
And Extra Soccer gives us extra time. So time to thank Summit, that is, and remind you all about their Backyard Bash, Saturday, September 10th. Bob Mold is going to be headlining this show, and it's going to have Bully. Bully will be there. Dem Atlas is going to be there, and Bad Bad Hats, who I love. So if you're the kind of person that knows who those people are, you should totally go to the show. I want to rock with you. So go to summitbrewing.com for tickets and for more information. And if you want to get a hold of us,
many mom jeans. Mom jeans.
There might be a lot of hipster mom jeans there. There might be actual moms, because Bob Mold's been around for a while. And the last time I saw Bob Mold, he rocked those moms so hard they couldn't hold in their farts. So if you want to get a hold of us, me and John, you can email us at mcscpodcast@gmail.com. I'm sure you're going to have tons of questions about this upcoming tournament. You can tweet at us, tweet at the club at MPLS City SC. You can tweet at John at Johnny Business with 2 N's, 2 Z's, and 2 S's. And then also you can tweet at me at MexiNate. hit us up. Let us know what things, city or soccer related, you want to hear about. But until then, that's all. And as usual, I am Nate.
And I am John.
And we're going to allow Go Get 'em Tiger to grace your eardrums one more time for good measure. Guess what tune we play?
Yes, folks. See ya.